So Manrique is going to cover the buying part, and I think you wanted to go first with the buying. So I will turn it over to you, Manrique.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Want to thank everybody for coming out and listening. A little bit on me. I'm the treasurer with the Audiophile Foundation. Have over 25 years of experience buying and selling. I have a home-based business, Pure Life Audio, which is in consumer electronics and specifically audio video. I've refined my tactics over the years, and I know a lot of you are very experienced, but I just hope that you're able to walk away with something of value or something to consider in your next audio procurement. So I'll start at the basics here. I want to focus on this being a journey and not a race. As much as you want to get your new equipment, if you think about it, step back and really think, you may save yourself money and grief, which is what we all want to avoid. Some of the basics. I think knowing about the terminology and what things mean is really important. So Robert Harley, who's the editor-in-chief of the Absolute Sound, wrote a book called The Complete Guide to High-End Audio. It's in its 6th edition right now, but if you don't mind an older edition, you can find one at a secondhand shop or at the library too. Lots of information. It's huge. I've read it twice, but I go back to it all the time to, cover a specific product or technology that I'm trying to research. Another thing I think is important is to also read articles. The Absolute Sound I mentioned is a well-known and probably the most viewed one in recent years, but there's also Stereophile and a whole host of other magazines out there. There's also online sites such as Positive Feedback, and there's also AudioGone forums. I just want to warn you that there's a lot of opinions and there's a little bit of hostility sometimes, but if you have a thick skin, you can really learn and grow with your information. I also watch a lot of videos myself. Paul McGowan has a really good one for PS Audio, his company. Paul Rigby is another one across the pond that has one, and you'll find a ton of people out there that have their channels or videos that can really inform you. From these sources, you're going to probably find reviewers, some that you just shake your head, you're not quite sure what they're thinking, and other ones you think, wow, that I thought the same thing when I heard that speaker. When you find somebody you trust, stick with them, follow them. They're going to, have maybe your perspective on the gear that you want to acquire. And I also look for people that are very honest, good or bad. You can learn either way. The other thing is to find a mentor. And you might ask me where. Well, Audiophile Foundation itself is full of a lot of people, whether they be down the street, across town, or across the nation. You'll find people with the same passion you do and a lot of opinions and experience there. We have people also that have been in industry that really know how things have come about. So you can find someone who has more experience than yourself and learn from them. There's also Facebook groups out there, but again, everybody has an opinion and there's a lot of hostility, I find, so bring your thick skin. But one of our sister foundations here is the California Historical Radio Society. For example, if you're into tubes, they have a lot of knowledge in tubes, how to test them, and what are good or bad things about tubes. So a lot of good resources there. And like I mentioned, you can always go to audio shows. Rather than reading and hearing what other people think, actually listen. Sit in a chair and listen to the speaker of your desire and find out if it is your cup of tea. I've actually thought things, oh, I really want this, and I've heard it and I said, well, it's not exactly what I was looking for, or it didn't have the characteristic I'm looking for. So that can be really good too. And you can also go to your local retailer. There's always a few within state or within a drive that you can go to, spend time, ask questions, learn, and grow. But from all this information, I want you to really take good notes. What may be apparent and obvious to you today, a year or two down the road, you'll be scratching your head. What was that brand he mentioned, or what was that component that does X? You're going to find that those come in really handy. And not only just with your notes, but also when you buy, to keep really good notes there so that you can refer later. So after you've done all that, you need to take stock of where your sound is. And I find people come to me from a few different perspectives. Some through word of mouth come to me and they just want to build a new system completely from scratch. There's a few avenues. You can go all in one. Dutch and Dutch has a system that other than power and an internet, you are ready to go. It's all there. Or you can go to separates, and then you talk about synergy, how components work together, because what may work great with someone else's system may not sound the best in yours. So be caveat of that. And then some people have really elaborate setups with vibration control, room treatments, power conditioning, yada, yada. Take all those things to heart. Also, depending on your perspective, you're going to think about what to buy first. Some are going to tell you speakers are the first thing to buy. Other people say sources. So it just depends on your perspective and what matters to you, but take that to heart. Another place that people come to me for is that they're asking to build on an existing system. And the first thing I ask them is, what is lacking? What's driving you to actually make a purchase? What is it that you're not hearing that maybe your friend's system has? And then we can form an approach that way. And then what do you like about your current system? That's a question I think a lot of people don't ask. Well, I like how it's got three buttons. You know, you ask my wife, I like that our Marantz home theater has no, other than a volume and a selector, nothing on the front. She likes that clean look. So that's important to her. Other people want to have a lot of control and want lots of buttons. And, you know, you have to look at what's important to you. And then a third, and probably a common one that I see more days as I get older here, is people building a second system. And, you know, they may, they may have, in their system that their kids may have gone to college, and now they got an extra room that they can dedicate towards sound. Or they purchased a vacation home. And with that, they can start from scratch and build from there. It's very common to do that. So what I usually find there is I ask them what they have, because a lot of times in your closet, in your garage, in your storage is an old piece of equipment, maybe a relative passed on and passed you something, and we can build around that. But if you want newer, latest technology, maybe a warranty, you may want to, pass that along to another audiophile lover and let them enjoy it and chase the new technology that's out there. And what's new? A lot of people that were analog only are going to digital. Digital's really make a resurgence recently, and a lot of people are building digital systems. People that have maybe been in solid states are now trying tubes or Class D amplification, or as in digital, streaming is a really big one too. So depending where you come from, you're going to answer these questions. Where are you at? Where do you want to be? What do you like and what is lacking is usually what comes to mind. So you've done all that, and now you're ready to start your search. The first thing I say is to stay in your lane, have a budget. What ends up being a $1,500 transport that you're looking at could turn into a $4,500 transport, a DAC, and streamer all built in one. So know what you want and what's important to you before you get too elaborate. I've heard too many people get really upset at themselves because they bit off more than they can chew. You also have to look at what will bring you the best improvement for your money. Sometimes in my situation, I chase the dragon buying different transports and not really getting the sound I want, and then taking a step back saying, you know what, maybe my room is not right. And so then I did a little bit of treatment to my room, and wow, it opened up the doors. I got a much bigger sound stage, and it's like all of my equipment went up a notch. So you may want to take hold of that. And then also there's two different steps in how you can approach things. As I mentioned before, you can just, if you don't like spending a lot of time looking at different equipment, you can buy an all-in-one system. Like I mentioned, the Dutch and Dutch has an all-in-one, and there's other ones out there. Or you can buy several pieces of equipment. I don't advise this unless you really know what you're doing, such as a digital front end. You're going to need the transport, streamer, DAC, maybe an internet connection, fiber. There could be a lot of approaches there. So take hold of that and make sure that you do it incrementally. You also have to be very knowledgeable in knowing the price ranges of new or used equipment. Normally, you can get used equipment 50% off of the stated value, but sometimes if it's a really sought after piece of equipment, you're going to pay top dollar, even though it's a few years old. Also, you have to look at the expense of being an early adapter. If you like chasing technology and you want to have the latest and greatest, you're going to pay the most of anyone out there. And there's caveats there. Sometimes you buy that and the company goes out of business. Now you're stuck with a product and no one to service it or to help you grow your system. So just be aware of that. You may also want to consider last year's product. When I call manufacturers, resellers, or distributors, I ask them, what do they have on hand? And that's also a way you can get a really good bang for your buck. But also be aware of esoteric equipment. This is equipment that has over the years shown to be very reliable. You hardly ever see them come up for sale. And it's because everybody gets them. They don't want them to leave their grubby hands. They really like their product and they don't want to let it go. So those are really sought after products that are always be in demand. Okay, so now from your research, you have to figure out what product to target. You have to know the brand or brands in the market. Usually I find with every type for a transport, there's going to be, 5, 6, maybe 10 brands that come to mind. You have to know the different models and how they differ. You're gonna have to know which colors they come in if that really matters to you, or what features are most important to you. Are there add-ons that really bump it up a notch or not? Knowing all that's going to be very important. So part of my research is I also often reach out to the manufacturer, distributor, or reseller. And like I say, I ask them about last year's models and see if they have it. If they have returns, sometimes when they give a 30-day warranty and or 30-day return policy, they end up with some product on their hand that they don't know what to do with. And you can get those with a warranty at a nice price. One thing you also want to ask the manufacturer, distributor, or retailer is when is the new model coming out? We never want to buy a product and then find out 3 months later that a new our Rev 2 is coming out or MK2 is coming out. You're not going to get resale value on the one that you just got. And you want to take advantage of the updated newer versions. Sometimes they're not as finicky or they work better. And so those things are always important to have. And then you also, I've asked this question and I've gotten the answer. I couldn't believe it, but I called Shunyata one day and yeah, that product is being discontinued. Well, I'm really glad I didn't go through and just buy it, that I did a little bit of research. It saved me a lot of aggravation because now would not be the time to buy. You want to wait till they stop selling it. If you're still interested, then you're going to get it at a better price. So that comes to where will you search once you determined all this. If you're looking new, you have the manufacturer, distributor to reach out to or check out their websites, call them. You can also try retailers like Best Buy, AliExpress. I know a lot of people have caveats about them, but you can get certain products through them that are fine. Sweetwater, Crutchfield, B&H Photo and Video are all really good places that you can find brand new products. For used, you can again try the manufacturer distributor, like I mentioned, but you can try AudioGone. You can try US or Canadian Audio Mart, depending on if you're open to that. The Music Room is another great place. The Music Room also has new products as well, so they can be both hands. But what you're going to want to do is to set up a notification on HiFi Shark. This will cover US Audio Mart, AudioGone, eBay, and Reverb, but it does not cover Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist if you're inclined to buy from those places. So things to consider. I always say safety first, know the details. If you're going to be buying from someone in the US or local within state, that's usually the best for many reasons, and I'll get to those shortly. But if you're buying from somebody foreign, you got to think about repairs, service, upgrades. Are there going to be tariffs? All these could really add into your budget and price. Now, if you're buying used, you want to make sure you read the detail of the listing completely. And what I do is I read it twice in case I miss something. And what this does is does the item come the way you like it, with original box, with the packing materials, with manuals, cords, whatever it is that's important to have with it. And then you also want to understand why the person's selling private party. Are they upgrading, downsizing, moving on where they don't have room? And this also helps determine length of ownership. And then another question I always ask, very few people mention it in their ads, has the item been repaired, upgraded, or modified? If it's been modified, a lot of people will not buy it. That hum that they can't figure out is going to be very expensive to figure out and get rid of. And if it's been repaired, sometimes they sneak back later and have the same issue. So just be aware of that. One thing I always talk to with sellers is, do they have the serial number on hand? Sales invoice, receipts, any documentation that can show you the pedigree of what you're buying. And on top of that, you're going to do research on the seller now, because they're not like a manufacturer of a new product. They're just a local, a Joe that's selling their item. So you want to make sure their feedback is good. and make sure that they have experience and knowledge about the product. Are they willing to talk on the phone? That's one thing that I've tried is I reach out to people and then I'll have a conversation. I'll get an understanding of their understanding of how they treated the product. So I've heard sometimes in the background when they said that the no pets or children, and I hear a dog barking in the background, that raises a red flag for me. And you also want to avoid people selling for friends. Although they're doing a service to their friend, they may not know about the product or know that it was repaired or whatnot. And I've actually seen unscrupulous people say that when they know there's a problem with the unit, and they can say, well, it was my friends, I didn't know that. So again, that is something to consider. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And what I have here to show everybody, can you see that? Okay, I think you can now. This is an ad that I took off US Audio Mart. And this is Herman 1. I hope you guys can see that and it's big enough, but he's selling a vibration isolation platform. He's in Evansville, Indiana. He has 78 transactions with 100% feedback, which is really good. And the first thing he says in his ad is you don't get 20 years of experience, years of extensive feedback unless you're an honest trader. He has 70 here, 672 on AudioGone, and 450 perfect score on eBay. Again, he's speaking to the things I'm talking about that he knows what he's doing. The other thing to realize that he describes it as new, have the original box and packing and shipping bolts, etc. So he's giving you a lot of the detail. He doesn't have to go into too much, but he's giving you a lot. And here we have in his ad, it's a picture of the sales receipt. So you can look on it from October 6, 2023. You can see the product. And more than that, he shows you a picture of the box so that you know that the box, you can expect it when it arrives, what it'll look like. Let's see here. And he even had on here, he had this ad showing what it cost. Again, that's new to give you an idea of what that goes for. And on top, he shows you the packing materials all there together. So again, this is what I would say is a pretty darn good ad that you're going to see. I would reach out to him if I was in Target for that. Another thing to be aware of would be target people who are selling things with transferable warranties. And if you know Bryston is a manufacturer of non-tube amps. And for years and years, they had a 20-year transferable warranty. It doesn't matter if you're the first or 10th owner, they're going to service that for 20 years. They stand behind their product. Now, they've modified this so that it's only on their non-speakers. If you buy a speaker, you have to be the first owner, but it is a 20 years, so that's pretty good. And again, that just shows you that they stand behind their product, and it makes me more likely to reach out to them as well. But in essence, in all this, I want to say that you have to watch out for your safety. And if you're going to be buying from foreign sales, make sure that you understand that even though they say it's in like mint condition, that may not hold true in other parts of the world. That might be just something that they say, and you don't want to be disappointed when it arrives. And again, shipping will be expensive. There might be tariffs. And how are you going to service this thing? Or if there's an issue, having to send it all the way back. I also say to avoid people who only do friends and family on PayPal. It does save money, but it takes all your assurances away. So that's a bit more risky. Unless you know the person and have worked with them before, I would say to avoid that. And again, you want to ensure all your shipments. This is not foolproof. I've had issues, and even though I packed things up well, they've not arrived well or had issues with that. But still, it is just another level of assurance. And for me, I've used FedEx. I've had the best experience with them. Not foolproof. I've had issues, but for the most part, they've done me well. So, and let's see here. I wanted to end with an item that I bought, and it might go against some of the things that we were talking about here, but I had been doing my research. I had a Aesthetics, a Janus preamp that I just loved to death. And I thought, you know, their Jupiter series, I'd love to get into that, but they're a bit pricey. And lo and behold, one day I was out there, and sure enough, an Aesthetics Callisto Eclipse came up on auction. And I was waiting for a movie with my wife. And before the credits were done, I bought it because I'd never seen it before. and I hadn't seen one in this good a condition with all the right things, and I ran out and bought it. But it's because I did my research. And even the guy at the music room says, "My, that must be the quickest sale. I just listed this 15 minutes ago." So I was really quick and able to jump it because I did my research. I could buy with assurance, and it's still in my system today. So that's my presentation. If anyone has questions, I'd be happy to entertain them.
Enrique, did you pay the music? You said you bought the preamp from the music room?
I sure did.
Did you pay the asking price, or did you make an offer less than the asking price?
On that one, I paid the asking price.
I just wondered how much flexibility they have there, but for a hot or rare item, I imagine they have it priced right.
They did. In that instance, I'd actually lost one. Someone outbid me, or I wasn't able to buy one 2 weeks before. So I was like already feeling the pain of that. And when this came up, I just thought that it was a good deal and I should just go for it. And I've been happy ever since.
Oh, that's a special piece. But to
Yes,
buy a power cord recently, I saved $500 or $600 by finding a perfect one on Audio Mart instead of buying it from the music room.
good for you.
Yeah.
So I guess the bigger point is depends on the item, but some items there's more latitude than others.
There is, and you hit on a good point. An item that is in demand, there'll be little flexibility. But if there are 10 other ads for it at the certain time, you can probably negotiate down if that's what you're inclined to do. I look at more personally, I'm at the stage in my buying that if I find the one in the right pedigree, okay, this is 3 months old, it's he's got the box, he's got all the things on it. He is going to command the high price, and I probably would be willing to go higher. But if there's if it's one of those situations where there's a lot out there, you may be able to wheel and deal a little bit more.
I have a question, and it's sort of different. I've only bought a few things. It must have been cables from the cable company. I want to know about, I'm rather risk averse, and I'm worried, how do I protect myself, my investment? If I'm sending thousands of dollars to someone, I want to make sure that I get what I want. In most cases, I know exactly what I want, even if it's used. I have to figure out how a good price, what's a fair price. And then I'm even buying in the US, what do you do to sort of ensure that the person that you're dealing with is legitimate?
You pay them with PayPal.
Well, that's a great question. Thank you for that, Lawrence. I would say that, first of all, if you're looking for cables, the cable company has a loaner program where you can actually kick the tires on the cable, and they have a lot of really knowledgeable people there. And I would advise you to try them first. And that way you can try different cables. They require a small deposit, and you get it for, I think, a week or two. And then you pack it up and send it back. You may pay some shipping, but it's great to see how that actual piece will work with your system if the synergy is there.
Right. Well, I've bought cables from the cable company. I knew exactly what I wanted. I always know exactly what I want. And I'm just looking at their used cable, and a couple times, they were selling exactly what I wanted. So that's why I bought it. On other things, if I'm looking on AudioGone or something, the things that work for me are people that are obviously dealers. So that's a little bit. But if I'm buying from someone, I guess I need to know how you guys go about doing this and protecting, yourself.
Well, the
and
first thing
the funds that you send them. It's a little bit concerning to me.
If you're talking about PayPal or eBay, there's a lot of buyer protection. And since Manrique mentioned PayPal, I just wanted to flag that topic. PayPal is terrific for a buyer. It sucks for a seller. If you have a dispute, Lawrence, PayPal will take your side by default. For a seller, it works the other way. I sold a pair of Bryston 4B ST perfect amplifiers.
Right.
The buyer told me that the transformers buzzed. Well, toroidal transformers make some mechanical noise. Well, he didn't like it. He froze payment. So now he had my amplifiers and he had, I had no money. I worked it out, but PayPal was no help to me. They take the side of the buyer, and so does eBay. eBay is probably my least favorite forum for audio gear, but if you're the buyer, they take your side every single time, and so does PayPal.
And what about AudioGone? Most of the stuff I see is
Depends
on
how you pay. If you pay through AudioGone's payment system,
right,
you have more protection than if you pay outside of their payment system. So I guess the expression penny wise and pound foolish applies. As Manrique noted, you can save money with friends and family on PayPal, but you're waiving all your rights.
I don't do that. I'm sorry.
Well,
you know,
can go to the bank. You can go to the bank, because I know I've had several occasions, and my daughter just happens to be head of the legal department over there at B of A, and she tells me, just if you have an issue, call us up. We'll look into it. We'll take care of you. You know, if PayPal is you feel is screwing you, don't let them do it. Go to the bank and cancel that payment. Get your money back. They'll do it.
I would just note, you know, number one, probably a lot of people can relate. I'm much better at buying than selling. Buying is easy and fun. Selling is painful and difficult. I started lightening up my collection, quote unquote, on US Audio Mart in December. And I had no reputation there, nada, zilch. And because I'd been stung by PayPal, I didn't want PayPal at all, but I grudgingly said friends and family. Predictably, nobody wanted to do business with me. But I would just tell you, once you get one transaction or two under your belt, and you get that perfect feedback, it makes a whopping difference. And in 1 month time, the month of December, this past, I think I sold 5 or 6 items, and I got friends and family payment for all of them, and with perfect feedback. So I'm rolling now. My point is, reputation is everything. And, you know, Google the person you're doing business with. Check out their reputation. If they have any arrests, you might not want to do business with them.
Probably not.
You'd be surprised at what pops up. Just Google the person and their contact details.
That's a good point. All right. Enrique, where'd you move? Oh, you're over here. Okay. Do you have anything else you wanted to put out now, or should I move on?
Well, the thing to Lawrence, I would say, is to check feedback. That's usually a good indicator on how a person is. I've actually dealt with people that maybe didn't have a perfect score, but they started out and they have a lot of transactions. In the last 50 or 100, they've been pretty stellar. I give them a second chance. But you're right. If a person does have a low feedback score, then I stay away. I don't care how good the item is.
This guy, Fred, has his hand up. I think he wants to say something.
Go ahead, Fred.
Yeah, Fred, sorry, we didn't.
Hey, no worries. No worries. I've been adding to the chat. So I just had Manrique, first of all, I think that was a great presentation. I've been buying and selling used for 20 plus years on AudioGone, on US Audio Mart. And I think the advice you've been giving is exactly the kind of advice that I would give as well. A couple of additional things I just wanted to add. One, I have only had trouble over my many years of doing this, the troubles I've had have all been with shipping heavy items. So I just wanted to sort of put that out there. When you try to secure a large toroidal transformer in the center of a chassis with a bolt, which is the way almost all large amplifiers and power regenerators do it, you put that in UPS or FedEx and then they throw it around. If that toroidal transformer breaks loose in there, by the time it comes to the destination, you basically have a chassis full of powdered components. And I've also found when I've insured products, insurance has never come through for me. In fact, it's happened to me enough now that I don't even bother with insurance because, most recently when this happened, UPS claimed that the box that I used was not up to the weight of the product, even though it was the manufacturer's own triple box, the one that PS Audio uses to send out hundreds of these products every day. UPS said to me, "Oh, sorry, the cardboard rating is not sufficient," and I got nothing for that. So be very careful about large, heavy products in shipping. I think that applies to large amplifiers, applies to speakers. That's something that sometimes I think it's better to be a little more patient and maybe look for something to show up locally. One other thing, Manrique mentioned having a notification set up on US Audio Mart. You can also do it on AudioDon. I have a notification set up to show me new ads within 300 miles. And local transactions are, in my experience, the best transactions, because then you don't have to worry about shipping. To the question that was asked earlier, you don't have to hand over your money until you've actually had your hands on the product. And generally speaking, I try to get to listen to the product if it's a local transaction. So those are sort of my tips.
You can get a price concession on a local transaction as well, because the seller doesn't have to pack it and ship it.
Yep, I've definitely found that to be the case. People are happy not to have the anxiety of, will it get damaged in transit? And do I have to schlep it to UPS? So I have definitely had people be willing to come down $100 or a couple $100 for various things.
Your approach matters too. Never just throw a low ball offer at somebody. If you want a concession on the price, write a note. I wrote a love letter to the guy that had my speakers. I would like to be the next caretaker of your beautiful speakers. I'm 6 miles from your house. He gave me a $1,500 concession from his AudioDon price.
Perfect.
Wow.
$1,500.
Yeah.
Well,
Let's
Fred, your
John
comments
Hughes
are really
has a
great. Fred, your comments are really great. The only thing I would add to that is that for heavy items, big speakers and amplifiers, I sell those all the time. But what I do is I slap them to a freight and we pay for freight shipping. And that is much the safest way to go. But it's, again, not foolproof, but another level of assurance, and it does cost money. But those are the,
we should footnote that there are a couple companies for people that are intimidated by this. If you're going to ship 600 pounds of speakers, you can contact the local franchise of craters and freighters. They crate and they freight. They'll palletize. The other one that I've had recent experience with that I like even more is called Navis, Navis. And they will ship precious heavy things and break nothing. They hand it off to Roadway or whatever happened to Yellow Express. They hand it off to one of those truckers, but they get it ready for transit.
Yeah, Navis is very good. I know they use foam actually to cushion everything, like custom-made foam.
Okay. There's a question on the chat, Manrique, from John Hughes about, is anyone talking about eBay? Do you want to address that?
Well, I have left eBay. The price, the fees are just out of proportion. I found a lot of unscrupulous people. Like, I won't deal with Craigslist, and I know I'm probably going to put myself in a corner, but I just choose not to. When I put things on Craigslist, I don't know who's going to show up at my door. I just prefer to go to a target audience. I found Audio Mart or Audiogon to be Audiogon the best, but you'll pay a little bit more because of fees and whatnot. But it just depends on your level of safety and security that you want. But eBay is still available and still, can be a source for some people.
Okay, great. All right,
Yeah.
well, I'm going to move on because we're kind of running out of time. My name is Jeff Kalina, and I'll be speaking for about 10 minutes, I hope. Okay. My short bio: in 2018, I lived in Arizona, and I was the president of the Arizona Audio Video Club. I moved up here a year ago, started the Off Islanders Audio Society, and now I'm currently on the board of the Audiophile Foundation. So I have bought and sold several times since I got back into the world of HiFi in about 2017, and I'll share some of the things I've learned, and I will hope to hear, as we have already, from others, other good suggestions on things you should do. So if you have a successful tweak at the end, we'd like to hear that. Okay, so let me start with plan A. If you're selling something, I use US Audio Mart almost exclusively because, well, it's free. The costs on Audiogon, I think, are up to about $70, and it runs for a month and then you're done. Sometimes I use Facebook Marketplace. That's a little higher grade of people, and they're local people. And Craigslist, like Manrique said, it's a little level of crowd. Now, there's also free advertising available to any of the members on the Audiophile Foundation website. So be sure to look at that. I know Fred's on there all the time. I suggest you think about who the likely buyer is for your product and target your ad to appeal to that segment of the market, because every piece is going to go to a different person. So if you can think about it from the buyer's perspective, you're putting yourself a leg up on it. Oh, I was going to ask Larry if he's still there. Are you on there somewhere, Larry?
I'm here.
Can you put up that FedEx thing for me?
Yep. The FedEx?
Yeah. Okay.
No, that,
Oh,
I tried it and it needs your.
I got to do that one. Sorry. I'm going to
yeah,
put that.
you've got to do that one.
All right. I don't know. It's not here anymore. It's disappeared. Oh, shoot.
Oh.
All right. Well, I'm going to try, but I'm having my doubts. Did it show up for anybody?
I can
Yeah.
see.
I've got it.
You see a FedEx? Create
Yes.
a
Yep.
not really where I want to be. Okay. So what I would consider, if you're going to sell a lot of stuff on over time, to open your own FedEx account. It doesn't cost anything. It doesn't take a lot of time. There's no deposits. You do have to give them a credit card number. You'll save a little bit on shipping, and it'll also allow you to calculate the exact cost of insurance, freight, get an idea of when it should arrive. You can do all that on your laptop. You can tell the buyer that you require them to have insurance in your ad, and they're paying for it. So it's a very good idea to have insurance on just about anything, really. It doesn't cost that much. So if you look at this example of something that I sent out here to somebody in Oregon, he bought some speakers from me. And what I want to show you down here at the bottom, the savings were not tremendous. Unfortunately, the people's pictures, okay. It was supposed to be $123 standard rate, and I got it for 107. So that was the savings. And then it also gives you your expected delivery date. This is just from Seattle to Portland. I think it was a 1-day thing. Okay. Plus, they're going to give you updates and email you updates and the buyer updates of where the status of the package is. So you have all that information. It makes people feel good. And when you tell them in the ad, they're going to save a little bit of money on the shipping because you're going to use your account. Everybody likes that. Okay, I'm going to take that screen down. Moving on to the next item. And when you're selling things, photos are everything. And you can't assume anything. When you are deciding which pictures to put up. Think about it from the buyer's perspective. You know, the back looks good. Well, they don't. So you got to show every side. You need to have something well lit. The pictures have to be clear and detailed and complete. So anytime you're selling something, don't scrimp on the pictures. Get the lighting as good as you can, get the backdrop as good as you can, put it down on a big white sheet if you have one. Show pictures of the original box, because that you can say you have the box, but you know, saying and showing are two different things. So show the box, show the manual, show the remotes, show the spec sheet, show everything you can. Moving on to the next point. One thing I like to do when people are buying things, and this bugs me, no matter what you're buying these days, the vendors usually won't tell you when they're going to ship it. Oh, yeah. Oh, you want to know that too, do you? Okay, well, so I just put in the ad, I'm going to ship it to you on the same day or the next day once payment is received. Now, that's somebody who's anxious to get something. That's a motivator right there. So I would include that if you're able to do it. If you have your own FedEx account, you're just going to fix up the label and then take it down there in the box. I don't seal the box when I get there. I ask them if they want to look into it, because they might say, well, we didn't pack it, so we don't know if it's properly packaged, to try to get out of a claim someday. But I've had good luck with FedEx. That's the only one I like to use. They actually paid me $400 recently on something that I didn't insure, which was a bad move on my part, but they were only obligated to pay $100 and they sent me $400. So I felt pretty good about that. It actually covered the repair I had to take care of. So when you're when you ship, ask the buyer, well, when you're selling something, tell the buyer to text you as soon as the payment is made. And that way, you know that you should be looking for a receipt, something in your email, so you can ship them quickly. Obviously, if they don't know if you don't ask them to do that, then they're going to know that you're not going to ship very quickly because you're not staying on top of it. Okay, tell them that you'll send a picture of the FedEx receipt when you leave the FedEx store once it's shipped, and they'll have the tracking and the ETA. If it's insured, which it should be, a signature will be required. Now that can be a hassle for people if they're not home. So the way to get around that is to suggest that they have it held at the nearest Federal Express store, which costs nothing. Actually, it saves you money, because if you're shipping to a household versus a business, they charge more for residences. They just do. I don't know why. It probably because it's more of a hassle for them, experience-wise. But so if they'll agree to have it held at the store, they don't have to be home all day waiting for a package to show up that they have to sign for. They can just go to the store at the end of the day, sign for it, and take it. Okay. Next, I would say when you're selling something, you have to offer references. Manrique talked about this, and it's important because they don't know who the hell you are. You need to present a 100% transparent image of yourself as best you can. And you can do that by offering to take phone calls. Explain why you are selling. If you don't do that, they're going to think something's wrong with it. You know, you got to put a reason in there, whether they like it or not, whatever it is, put in a reason. And then disclose that the product works 100% as intended, or what doesn't work. I mean, there could be something small that doesn't work. When you put in something that doesn't work, it actually increases your credibility a little bit, as long as it's not something significant. Okay, and then you have to rate your product and be conservative. I mean, the people who come out and say, "Oh yeah, it's brand new. It's it's the top rating. It's a 10," and they're reselling it. Well, it can't be a 10 because they're reselling it. It's already out of the box. And so right off the bat, if I see that in an ad, I'm knocking that guy's credibility down. So read the rating chart and pay attention to it if you want to build your credibility. Next, methods of payment to consider. Zelle or Venmo, whichever one you like, both work instantly, but don't have any buyer protections. So at least none that I'm aware of. If you're selling, it's a great way to go. Now, PayPal, if you take PayPal, we've discussed the problems with the going with friends and family. You give up all your protections, and that's terrible. But now that PayPal is going so far as to holding funds in some cases before they even advance them. And that's not very good for a seller. Not to mention they're going to report your transactions to the IRS, so you're a business. So I think PayPal is just going to eventually going to be kicked out of this process, because if you're a seller and you're using it, it's not very friendly. And I think you'll find, yes, they do always side with the buyer. It's so, as someone said earlier, it's good for the buyer, bad for the seller.
Who would you recommend?
Yeah.
I would recommend you use one of the standard payment methods if you're selling. Ask them to go with Zelle or ask them to go with Venmo. It depends.
Yeah, but you have no
selling. You don't really
protection with either of those. Once the money's gone,
It's gone.
it's gone. If there's a problem, you can't get it back. If the seller doesn't want to refund it, you have no recourse. It's just like handing over cash. I
Okay.
won't use either of them.
We'll talk about all that at the end. Let me
All
finish
right.
stuff here. Okay. Okay. Ways to accelerate a sale. Offer to cover the freight and insurance to anything that's in the continental United States. That eliminates a big question mark in a buyer's mind. And you're going to accelerate your sale. It's going to cost you money, but if you're going to drop the price anyway, just think about, which is a better thing to do. If you you should offer a local audition to anyone if they can make it to come listen, because that makes it sound like you are available and the product is available to listen to, and it should be, really. If you're desperate, you can offer a 3-day return period. I've never had to do that, and I don't really like the idea of it, but again, it would potentially eliminate a lot of question marks in a buyer's mind. However, it also opens a Pandora's box of things that can happen. So I would put that out. If you're shipping to Canada, just be sure that your carrier will deliver to the buyer's locale, because that's changed through the years. And I've shipped with everything with FedEx, and they don't necessarily want to go to every locale in Canada. So it's just something you have to find out. I've only sold one thing to Canada. It was fine. A deal went through. There was no hassle. So I don't have an issue with that. If I was buying from Canada, I don't know if I'd feel the same way. Now, if there's any warranty remaining on your product and it is transferable to the new owner, you must, of course, say that, because that's a big selling point for you. Now, if it's expired, say that, because then you're being upfront with the person. You're saying, it had a 4-year warranty. It's now gone because it's year 5. But when you do that, list where the factory authorized service is performed in the United States and include the year built in your ad. You don't have to include the serial number unless you want to, but I don't see any problem with actually putting a serial number out there for people. I mean, they're not going to steal it with a serial number. Okay, so all of the above make the buying experience less stressful, therefore easier for the buyer to pull the trigger. When it comes to pricing, you're going to look at the other sites to see what list price are, attracted buyers, and how long it took them to sell. My thought is, if you do everything right, including pricing, your sale should happen the first week. Now, if it's not sold after the first week or whatever timeline you're willing to wait, you better consider a price reduction of 10% minimum, and in my mind, more likely 20%, because if you didn't even get people calling and checking on something, your price is quite a bit off. Now, if people were shooting you low offers or whatever, then you could, at least you had interest. Things you don't want to do in your ad. Now, we talked about a couple of these already, but don't make statements like low offers ignored. That's just going to make people think, I don't want to deal with this guy. He's a hard ass. Don't say already boxed as an excuse for no trial or pictures. I'm going to immediately flip past any ad that said that. Selling for a friend, the same thing. I just feel like that's a seller's excuse to not know anything about the product. Now, I would be very wary of using wanted ads to find something. I've done it and I found things, but I also know it attracts scammers big time, because they zero in on all those wanted ads and they will try to get your money. So be very cautious if you do that. Now, that's my plan A for selling something. If you don't want to do that, if it's not worth the effort, then just consider plan B, which we spoke of earlier. Go to tmraudio.com, which is the music room, and submit your item online. In 2 or 3 days, they'll email you an offer. Be prepared to be offered about 50% of the price you should expect using plan A, because they want to make money. And if you know what you can sell it for, they know what they can sell it for, and they're not going to give you the full price. Okay. The second thing the music room also does is they offer a consignment option whereby you list the item with them and pay a percentage when it sells. I think that's 25 or 30%. I've never done that, but I know that's an option with them. And finally, plan C, donate it to the Audiophile Foundation because it might qualify as a tax benefit to you. Now, let's see here. And that is the end of my presentation. So I'll open it up to questions. Hello?
Yeah, I wanted one comment about the time that an item should sell. My experience is that low price sells very quickly. Expensive items take your time. The market is much smaller.
Sure.
So yeah, so consider that first. And secondly, for research, at least pricing, I would go to HiFi Shark and just check what's the general price that the market bears.
Yeah. Now,
So let me, I just pulled up the HiFi Shark and I wanted to point out something real quick. So there are 2 tabs here on HiFi Shark. So you can, like they mentioned, you can search on a brand, and you can also save your searches and they'll send you notices. One thing to note though, it's good for getting an idea about pricing. The sold and expired tab is not the price that it was sold for on HiFi Shark. It's the list price, just so people are aware.
yeah. I agree. Yeah. And so you need to look over here at the dates. This is what I think is legitimate information. This was on for 2 days and sold. Okay. So that tells you it's a hot item. He had it listed to 1780. He probably didn't take much less than 1780. Okay. So you look at the timelines. Okay. The next one's 4 days, 2 days, 2 weeks. So if you're looking at a hot item like this Ever Solo line is pretty hot, that's an easy thing to price because there's a lot of them.
But it does give you a good idea of generally what things are going for. So it's a good research tool.
It is. And so if you look at what were the other things I had to show them? Oh, the example of a good ad. Can you pull that one up?
The Fritz,
Which one was that?
that the Fritz?
Oh, it was one of the links I gave you that
There's a
said good
Fritz
ad.
and Advent.
That's all right. I'm not advanced enough to know how to screen share things properly, so Larry's assisting. If we can't get it, no big deal. What I'd like to know is what other ideas have people used in the past to get things sold that might have been unusual, we wouldn't have thought of. Okay, there's an ad.
Oh, sorry.
All right, here's what I call a good ad, one of mine. This sold in 2 days. They were Fritz speakers. And if you scan down a ways, you can see the information I included, pictures of the box, different reviews and things. Fritz doesn't give you a whole hell of a lot, but he gives you a few things. So the description was, I had some pretty good data to put in there, and this guy's, it just sold right away because it was a good price. I mean, I paid less than that for them from the music room because the music room sometimes underprices things. Not very often, but they did on these. So, okay, can we find the one that excuse me. Okay, here's a bad ad. Now take a look at the picture and tell me why. Do you want to buy something that a person decided it was okay to set out in their grass? I don't think so. Okay, that's enough of that one. When I see somebody's product in a garage or there's dust on it, they didn't take the time to wipe it, to clean it. It's just that's all red flag for me. And unless the price is super good, I don't want to see anymore. I just move on. Do we have any other stuff, Larry, that I gave you for examples?
That's all I had in the audio mart, but I
Okay.
couldn't plug in.
Oh, I wanted to talk about one thing that happened recently to me through US Audio Mart. I bought something from a guy who was a premium 80, 100% rating, seller. And in his ad, he says, "Oh, I won't take PayPal unless it's friends and family. Don't call me unless you're ready to buy." I mean, all the type of crap is like, he's got the best, hottest thing. He had what I wanted, so I had to deal with him. But I should have known better because there were a lot of red flags there that I just bypassed. He shipped me an amp that weighed about 65 pounds. So Fred fits into your category of heavy amp issue. The box arrived. I looked at it. The box didn't have a dent on it because as soon as you see the box for the first time, you got to look for any kind of issues that looks like it may have had if it's been dropped. And this was perfect. So I got it home, opened it up. I found out that all 8 transformers our capacitors had fallen loose and were inside rolling around and even leaking. So I contacted the guy and I said, I don't want this. I'm going to ship it back to you. And he refused. This is Mr. 80 perfect, satisfied customer guy. So I tried to work through US Audio Mart and they sided with him. Oh, here's the guy who's giving us all the business. And you just must have had a bad delivery through FedEx and they dropped it and look what happened. I said, well, they dropped it. Well, there's no sign that it was ever dropped. So I contacted the manufacturer who was also in California. They told me they've never seen all eight fall off in the shipment or anything else. They've seen maybe 1 or 2, but all 8, no, that's not happened. He said it had to be run above amp. Highlined is what he called, which means your outlet's supposed to run at 120. If somebody runs it at 125 for a long time, it's putting too much power through it and it fries those things. They expand and break off. So I got all that information, gave it back to US Audio Mart, and they just still said, "Oh, sorry, maybe we'll get the seller to do something for you." The seller would do nothing. FedEx did pay me $400 when they were actually only obligated to pay me $100. And this was my own fault because I didn't insure it. So lesson to be learned, always insure.
Well, then how did you manage to get the $400 from FedEx?
I just filed a claim.
Mm.
You go online, you file a claim. If you have an account, you're somebody. If you don't have an account, I guess you may not get that. But I thought it was nice. So, of course, FedEx more than that with all the shipping fees between me selling it, paying to get it shipped up from California to here, then back to Sacramento to the factory, then back from the factory to me. That was $400 right there. So, but
Hey, Jeff,
I was good. He fixed it, no charge on labor. He only charged me for the capacitors, which was really nice.
Who
You ever
fixed
see a
it for
guy
you?
named Dynamic Horns? Don't buy from him.
Who fixed it for you for such a reasonable price?
The manufacturer guy's name is Doug Dale. He owns Dakota. They're in Sacramento.
Oh, that's good.
Jeff, I have a question for you. When you're buying something from somebody of that value, of that size, of that whatever, is it proper to ask them what kind of warranty do I expect to get if I receive this unit that it's not in an operable condition?
Well, that's where I was shocked because I thought anytime you get something that doesn't operate, you have a right to return it. And apparently you do not. So I'm passing that along. I mean, I had an app return, a couple of little past lab monoblocks shipped from Arizona to Maine. And the guy got him. He goes, one of them's not working. And I'm thinking, damn, I know they both work when he shipped. I said, all right, I'll take it back, send it back. And I took it to my repair guy. He goes, oh, one wire came loose. Okay. So, it was a legitimate complaint. I had to take it back because it didn't operate. And that's just, that's part of the risk of shipping stuff across the country.
Did you
So-
speak with this guy on the phone before you bought that whatever piece?
I talked to him briefly and I didn't like him at all. He was one of these kind of, oh, I work too. He goes, I probably can't ship it until, I said, I can send you the money today. Can you ship it tomorrow? No, I'm going to be working until Sunday. I can ship it Monday. I said, okay, well, then I'll send you the money on Monday. Oh, no, wait a minute. Let me, I can get there. I'll get there Friday night. They're open late. It's like,
John
Don't
Hughes had,
don't
John
don't
Hughes
ignore the
had
red
his
flags.
hand up.
sorry, John, go ahead.
I just want to say that I'm probably one of those sellers that you don't like on US Audio Mart, because I only sell with PayPal friends and family after a number of bad interactions with people.
I'm not saying-
However, I have very good, I have a perfect feedback record. I am also a premium member. Not that I intended for that to happen. I became a premium member because I could only list so many pieces of equipment in a month. In order to list more, I had to become premium, which costs $20 a year. But once you get that little star that says premium, people seem to trust you a lot more.
And this guy was a premium. My seller was a premium guy. And I
Yeah,
don't say that I wouldn't buy from somebody with friends and family because I just don't want to offer it myself because it's such a hassle for you as a seller. And I can understand why you don't want to offer it either. That wouldn't stop me from buying from you.
Yeah, so I actually just sold a difficult piece of equipment with all of the red flags in place. So one, it was a guy who hit me up on US Audio Mart who was not a member, he was a guest. And he said, I want to buy your product. And he said it was a sound applications power conditioner for kind of an obscure product, but actually very valuable and some people really like it. I knew it would take a long time to sell. It had been listed for 6 months. I had a high price on it because it's rare. And he sent me 3 different emails as a guest saying, I'd like to buy this and I'll buy it basically for the price I listed at. That's another red flag for me. If someone says instantly, I want to buy your product and I'm not going to haggle for the price, that's a red flag that they're a scammer,
Yeah.
So
Really?
yes.
I don't get that. Why should that?
I
be
don't get that
scammer?
either.
Because a scammer, if someone's going to scam you, they're not going to haggle for pricing. They're gonna try to hook you by paying your full price.
Mhm.
So
Some more.
the majority of people that contact you with that if you're a seller, the majority of buyers that contact you with that attitude, I would say more than 50% are scammers.
Wow.
Thank you
Wow.
for sharing that.
John, are they trying to take you for your money? Is that
Yeah.
what they're trying to do? Send you a phony check or something like that?
Yes, whatever scam that they're running, but
John,
so-
I'm the other 50%. I often buy at asking, but only if I can
Yeah.
tell the price is good.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
finally, after the 3rd time that he sent me an email, I did respond to him. I said, yes, this is available. And then he said, oh, I'd like to buy it. And then I said, okay, I'm going to engage him and talk to him and see if he knows what this product is. I said, what do you know about the sound applications power filter? And then he sent me back this 3-paragraph email about how he met the designer, Jim Wheel, 20 years ago. He installed it in a studio for a friend 10 years ago, and he's always wanted to buy one. And he just saw mine listed. And I was like, okay, that is not a scammer.
That sounds like a good story.
Right. But I said, look, you have no reputation. You're a guest. I said, the only way I'll sell it to you is through PayPal, friends and family. And if you send me a payment, I will hold it for a week. And after that week passes, I'll ship it to you. And he did that. He said, okay, fine, I'll do that. And I literally shipped it out 2 days ago. So there's no way he's gonna, hopefully that that filter is going to someone who loves it, but I'm protected.
Yeah.
Why are you protected from what does holding it for that week mean? How does that help protect you?
PayPal and friends and family does not allow people to, you cannot return money from them
After,
Over
a-
after a certain period of time, you mean?
at any period of time. There's no
Oh.
return policy.
what was the advantage of holding it for a week is what I
Yeah.
think Jan.
Well, just in case there was a banking error or something that they could have pulled, with scams and stuff,
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, so anyway,
So if you buy something that's a DIY item or obscure, you need to know when it comes to selling, it's going to be tricky. And you better buy it right because you're going to probably own that thing.
yeah.
I like to sell everything I don't use. Some people like to put it in closets and keep it for later. I'm not that person. I want it gone. I want it to somebody else to use it, and because it's just I figure it's just depreciating and gonna get to where it doesn't work after a while sitting in a closet. So I like to move things, and so you have to decide for yourself if you're replacing, you're trading up. Do you want to sell your old one that you're pretty happy with before you get the new one that you hope you'll be happy with, or should you have them both together at the same time? I mean, I always do it. I sell first and buy it, but I've thought to myself, man, I wish I had the other one. I could listen and really decide A, B, but you can't always do it. So, all
So
right.
this is Chris. I've just got a couple of things to throw in. I research on eBay under the sold because they'll give you the last sold price by a category. So for example, if I was looking for a Nakamichi 505 auto reverse cassette deck, go out, look it up under the solds, and you kind of take the mean price of all the listings because some of them are outrageous, but some of them are old and some of them are new. And then I go look local. So in my case, we have an audio store down in Gig Harbor, and they had one. Well, easy, drive down, pick it up, come home. And I paid mid-price. So they had it priced right.
Yeah.
I picked up my reel-to-reel.
Where you might have recourse,
Yeah.
versus
Well, and that's for Lawrence. My concern is similar to yours. Okay. I bought my first reel-to-reel recently. I had one back in the day, but I bought a Sony 765 from the Museum of Audio down in Texas when they were divesting a bunch of equipment. And that was 4 emails and 2 phone calls.
Okay.
But he was willing to go full PayPal. And after negotiation, because I wanted it lower, I didn't say I want it for the price you asked. But at the end of the day, after that negotiation, I did pay their full price.
Okay.
But he went PayPal with full controls, which was fine. The problem was when they shipped it, they put a very nice heavy remote control from the 1970s on top, and it broke loose, and it broke the flip up for the that covers the heads, the tape cover. And Reverb, who was where the transaction was through, coordinated with him, and I got a refund, a partial refund for the cost of that cover based on the last one that they had sold, which seemed to be pretty fair.
Yeah.
And the piece of tape took care of the problem, so I'm not worried about it. But the second deck, which is a twin, weighs the same amount. I buy from a guy who sells reel-to-reels and refurbs reel-to-reels in the Northwest, up in outside Vancouver. He knows how to pack a deck.
Well, that's the difference.
Telephone conversation. Again, telephone conversation. And since he's in a real store, and I'd done business with him on a small scale before. It was a Visa. The cool part about the charge card is you've got recourse with the charge card company.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
And that works great. And the cool part was he knew how to ship a deck. So when it got here, it was in perfect shape. So, you know, John, I guess your comment about full price surprised me, but I have to admit, I don't think I've ever started out with full price. So, and that's the best I can say is research it, just like these guys have been saying.
Well, if somebody does not have the original box, that's enough usually for me to move on to another one. I want the original box no matter what.
Yeah, but
Yeah, it's a,
40-year-old equipment's hard.
Well, yeah, and you're buying from somebody who's not used to shipping stuff too. So there were some red flags that, you know, they didn't know how to wrap it. They didn't wrap the control individually. They didn't secure it right. And so you got,
Yeah.
you know, you took a
But these guys are supposed to be reputable. It's a museum, for God's sakes.
yeah, do they ship a lot of audio equipment? No,
Yeah.
probably not.
yeah,
You know, they don't have experience.
there's nothing wrong in basically telling the seller, this is the way I would like you to wrap things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I make a point to know what they're doing before because
It's a
I
good
don't get
learning.
burned on stupidity like that.
Yeah, it's a good
I'll
learning.
press the second box on top of everything sometimes if it's a delicate item.
Well, I always say, I mean, anything delicate, at least double box, at least.
Yeah.
And not only that, make sure it's packed so nothing moves. Like if it's a turntable, which I don't suggest you ship, but if you buy a turntable, definitely clamp down the arm, clamp down remove the platter, okay, pack
Yeah.
it separately.
Oh, yeah.
So you need to know what things can dislodge and slosh around in the box and
Yeah.
damage things.
And if you're
basically say,
buying-
this is the way I would like you to do. You can't do it, don't sell it to me. So
If you're buying vintage though, Christoph, even with a partial refund, if you're buying vintage, that broken cover might be made out of unobtainium.
yeah.
Oh yeah, it absolutely is. I've seen one in 3 years and it was through the roof. So my piece of tape.
Christopher, when you used your credit card, how did you have an issue with that? When you used your credit card on that
No.
purchase,
No,
did you have an issue? Because there's a
No,
4%
I'm
charge
buying-
in there that a lot of guys don't like dealing with.
right. Well, I'm buying from a guy who ran the probably premier PA and audio installation company in Vancouver for 30 years. And he's now I'm retired refurbing professional tape decks business. So he kept all of his business hooks so he can take a Visa over the phone and his store will take a Visa. So after, you know, I've been talking to him for 2 or 3 years. So it was a known person, which is the point. I got to know the seller. And it makes a big difference.
To buy from a private party who you don't know, you have to be getting a good deal. Because if you buy from somebody like the music,
Right.
first of all, they give you a 2-week or a 4-week trial period, and you don't like it, you send it back. And
Yeah.
that's some money. That's worth paying extra for, and it's
Absolutely.
something that, you know, is peace of mind. You don't get that with the Mr. Premium seller in Sacramento.
right.
Screwed me over.
See you guys later. I gotta go run now.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks. I think
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you, Jeff.
Good
Yeah.
session.
A lot
Yeah,
of good,
thanks.
a lot of good information. Thanks for passing along, especially about the shipping company information. That's good data. Yeah, just real quick, I bought something on, I think it was US Audio Mart. I bought a turntable. The guy put it in a box and shipped it. No packing, no nothing. The platter came off, bent the arm, destroyed the dust cover. It was
Paperweight.
pretty funny.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, we all have those horror stories, I think. So
It won't
Maybe-
happen again, right?
Maybe we
I've-
should have a session if there's interest. Maybe we should do a Wednesday night on people's repair experiences and trusted shops to send precious gear to.
Well,
We
That would be
we do
good.
have, that's a good suggestion, and
That'd
we
be
can
good.
do that. We do have a resource page on the website that people have forwarded contact information for repairs. So that's there on the website, but yeah, that would be good to have a discussion on that as well.
yeah,
I have,
I think that is probably one of the bigger factors that we did not talk about today. When you buy used equipment, especially vintage, the life cycle of the equipment is not like new. So you should have a plan. What
Yeah.
happens if, I mean, it might work right away and die after a year. What do you do?
I can attest that new capacitors will turn a vintage amplifier into something wonderful.
Yeah. So sometimes you need to consider that up front. Like, this is part of the cost. I buy cheap, a tube amp that I always wanted, but it's 30 years old, 40 years old. I buy it cheap. Should I use it even, or should I give it to a technician or do the job myself? And I invite everybody to take my DIY class next month.
Yeah.
That
Thank
way you can do the job yourself, right? That's
Yeah.
part of the deal. And
I-
I always say, you know, if you don't know enough about what it takes to fix stuff, don't get into anything. And that has to do not only with audio, with cars, with anything. If you don't know what it takes to fix it, don't buy used. Buy new, and you're safe, right?
Well, there's that. And your
And
tip
I don't do that.
requesting a second box for something to be shipped is a very, very good one. Turntables, I think, are particularly bad for shipping. Somebody said amps are bad. I mean, it's just, it costs you, it might add another 50 or $100 to your shipping cost, but you know, if it's double boxed and done right by FedEx, you know, make them do it. Don't do it yourself. Let them do it, because then you're 100% covered. You buy the insurance and it's going to arrive in one piece.
Yeah,
I
no,
had-
I don't skimp on shipping materials. I mean, the outer box, make sure there's at least an inch on all sides of the inner box
2
with
inches.
foam, with stuff that you make sure that the inner box doesn't move at all. And the equipment inside the inner box shouldn't move by itself. And anything heavy, pack it separately. Put
Yeah.
several boxes inside the outer box. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that, you know. So use saran wrap to
Well-
hold things down so they don't move around, right?
Take another
you can do-
consideration. If you're buying something, you need to know where the service will be performed on your product. If it's something from China, there may be absolutely nothing in the US for service options. They'll just either tell you, ship it back to me and we'll send you a new one, or, you know, they'll try to, the Chinese don't have the same attitude about returns as you expect to get from the US. They might expect you to pay the freight. They might ask you questions about it. Why you're returning this broken thing? Well, it's broken. You know, there's a lot of funny stuff that can happen when you're not dealing with a US manufacturer. I
Absolutely.
totally loved Past Labs as an example, as a company to work with. They were phenomenal. So
Yeah.
I'll pay extra for that. You know, it's worth paying extra to have that kind of service, and
Absolutely.
especially they're in California too.
One more issue, which is important. Whatever you buy, even new, check if the unit is designed for service. There are units out there by European companies, by American, by Chinese companies, that to get into the boards to replace anything, you have to dismantle the whole thing.
Yes.
Okay? I mean, I'm working on a piece now. You have to remove all the power transformers and output transformers to be able to get to the bottom of the PCB, because the manufacturer did not bother to put a plate on the bottom.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have cost them another $20 on something that is $2,000. Okay, I mean, not too much money to spend on design for serviceability. But apparently, a lot of companies don't even consider it. They just build the cheapest they can, and
Who made the amp you're working on, Ori?
it's an amplifier.
Who made it?
Not gonna say-
Well, I already finished working on that one. That was by a French company.
A
And
French
Okay.
I want to mention it. And I took another. This is all for people that just asked me a favor, and I said, fine, I'll do it. And I made the same mistake, and I took a Chinese amplifier that looked easy to work on, because the picture looked like the boards are easily accessible. And then turned out that what I assumed is two boards, it goes under a bracket with a transformer, a big transformer sitting. I assumed that it's split in the middle, that there are two boards. Well, it turned out no. It's one board that the board is even not straight. So you cannot just pull it out from one side. It's actually locked in. You have to remove the whole transformer set to be able to get down to that board. And then not only that, has no connectors, which in audiophile terms is actually better because everything is wired and soldered. However, if you have to service it, now you have 20 or 30 wires. You have to mark, desolder, and then put them back. I mean, it's a lot of work. And then people are surprised when they take an amplifier to service, and it costs them $500 to replace capacitors.
Yep.
Because it takes 3-4 hours to work on it.
Mhm.
And I had one working monoblock and one non-working. And they said, with monoblocks, any changes you make to one, you must do them both because you want them to sound the same.
A lot. Mhm.
Yeah.
So $1,000 for two
Or-
monoblocks to be recapped.
Or if it's bad in one, it's going to fail pretty soon in the other. So
Yeah.
might as well do it.
Worth it though, worth it.
Can we talk about one other thing that wasn't well covered tonight? I want to sell some things, and I'd like to use Craigslist. What are the issues with Craigslist aside from to protect yourself from people that are less than, let's say they're not a little unsavory? How do you deal with Craigslist? Or
I
is there a
don't-
way to deal with
don't-
Craigslist?
I don't use them.
Sell it through the club.
no. Janet, you
Go
can
through
you
the
can
club.
meet in a public place. That's a lot of people will say that.
Yeah.
I will not meet at my home, only in a public place. So that's
And-
one way to do it.
But just Craigslist in general, you're going to end up with a lot of low quality leads. You're going to waste an enormous amount of time
Yeah.
with scammers who are going to be. I've just found it's not even worth trying to sell anything on Craigslist. Even
Wow.
giving things away on Craigslist is an invitation for
Yeah,
like the
but
number of
Give
people.
away on Craigslist.
you don't want
Yeah,
to
when
ship
I
stuff.
Yeah, I try to
When
give
I,
things away on Craigslist and people flake out. They say, "Oh, I'll come by today at 3 for it," and then they never show up, right? I mean, so it's the amount of time you waste on Craigslist.
Oh,
I
I
just find
know.
it's not
They
So
worth
my,
it.
don't
so my
show
trick
up.
on Craigslist is very simple. I will sell, and the ad will always say, must include a phone number for a reply. And I erase them immediately if there's no phone number. That's very simple. It's no exception. I've never had
Why not
any
offer
ad
it?
that came back without a phone number and was serious. So any reply. So that's
Why
it.
not try offering your items to the foundation members before Craigslist?
Yeah, do that for sure.
So
Yeah,
much
put it
safer.
on the buy and sell locally forum, and I can help you with that, Jan, if you like. But I've used Craigslist, and you just have to know that there are going to be some flaky people, and trust your gut, because you can tell right away usually when somebody's trying to scam you or something. And like I forget if it was Jeff or Manrique, but you talk to them and they know, if they know about the equipment, and you can tell that they're reputable, and you can do that way. But I sold quite a bit of stuff before I moved from Walnut Creek to Ashland on Craigslist, and most of it worked out really well. So
Did you
I just
not use,
ign-
Facebook, Larry? Did you try the
I
Facebook?
haven't used, I don't use Facebook, so I haven't used their selling feature. I don't do Facebook.
Well, I have 3 Pioneer vintage amplifiers, SX 1050, SX 1050, SX 950 that I'd like to sell. They're very heavy and I'd rather not ship them. So the only thing I can think of is local and
Yeah.
that Craigslist.
Foundation.
That's your best bet.
There was some vintage gear on our buy and sell locally forum that just sold recently. It was put up and sold pretty quick. So
The other
if you
thing,
want help,
you don't have to, if you put it in US Audio Mart for free, you can say no shipping. That means it's going to somebody in your marketplace.
I see. That's a good idea.
Yeah, and then I mean those are desirable pieces you've got there. People are going to want those. If you
Yeah,
have-
I was gonna say the same thing on US Audio Mart. You can just list it. The listing is free, and in the title, just say, you know, Northern California local or something, you know, Bay Area local, something that lets people know that it's a local pickup.
no
Yeah,
shipping.
I think Janet's problem is she doesn't want people to come to her home. I mean, she is alone, so.
Yeah, that is my issue. Definitely an
And,
issue.
and those are heavy items, so there are security issues, and I guess they're universal for some people.
You might need to use Manrique's service.
I don't know about a Manrique's service. What is your service, Manrique?
Well, I resell for a lot of people I know, and I just take I can either co-sign, or I've even bought stuff too from people if they're just to take the problem away from you. Whatever you prefer, I'm happy to work with you.
Oh,
Wow.
sure. You just told us, look out for, I'm selling for a friend.
Yeah, exactly.
I know, but I've sold for friends as well, but I say that
That's the other thing. A lot of sellers on Craigslist are scammers. You call them. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a dealer, right? Dealers are good people, most of them. There's a problem with the scammers that are dealers and don't say it, right? I mean, if they're hiding something, there's a problem with that.
Yeah.
Why are they hiding the fact that they're dealers? I'd say the same thing about with Craigslist. Definitely, there's a lot of those. I'd say 90% of the sellers are scammers, are dealers, petty dealers, I call them.
Be safe, Janet. Be safe.
Yeah, eBay. My take is basically, if the guy says he's a dealer, fine, that's fine. If he doesn't say he's a dealer, you look at their sales and you see 5,000. He's a dealer, okay?
Yeah.
He's just not saying it.
Yeah.
I think they charge more if you're a dealer, right? Don't they charge them extra for being dealers when they list stuff? So they don't want to be a dealer?
Why would they hide being a dealer, in other words?
Because they have to pay more to list it. Like, don't they on some of these sites?
I think actually
Dealer
on,
you pay more.
on eBay they get actually discounts.
Okay.
So it's actually to their advantage. But you know, if you're not selling something that is yours, you know that people are interested to know that. You know, don't
Yeah.
pretend that it's yours.
Right.
If you pretend that it's yours, you're cheating.
Yeah, you're lying.
You're lying.
Yeah.
So I have no problem if you come immediately and say, I'm a dealer, that's what I do, and I stand behind my sales. You know, I feel much better that way.
Mhm.
Actually, I feel better buying from a dealer that stands behind the sales than from an individual that doesn't know what the hell he's doing.
true.
Exactly. Okay, well, are we gonna say we've 7:30? It's probably
Yeah,
time
I
to
think-
let everybody go.
I think that was a good, that was a pretty good chat.
Yeah, good discussion, everybody. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you. Thanks to everybody who
Thanks.
came. and-
Yeah, Enrique, yeah. I think Janet will contact you. And Janet, please consider the audio mat. I mean, she gave me an amplifier to help us sell because of those reasons, that she doesn't want people to come to her house. but it is an expensive item, and I am not willing to ship. So I'd rather really have somebody come here, listen to it, and see that it is a quality item. And it's just not moving. So yeah, we can use some help.
Yeah.
the market's soft right, so that's not out of question.
Right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks
All
for
right.
coming.
Here.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.